Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, Del, and thank you for the audience. Let's start and learn about deception. Oops. Yep. So people may tend to think that deception is honeypot, and basically, yes, it's rely on the basic idea behind honeypots. It's around 35 years old technology, but deception is basically took this approach and make it to a platform. So let's start from the basic about deception. What is the meaning of deception? How deception is equal to our real life? I guess everybody here took his kids to a mirror maze. And you know what's funny about mirror maze? If you look on mirror maze from above, you can see a line of 25 meters that you need to pass. If you go walking in the street, 25 meters will take you half a minute. But if you take your kids into the mirror maze, try to navigate, will take you at least 20 minutes, and at least 2 times you get your head in the mirror. This is the idea behind deception. It's basically to take a real network, place fake asset, fake device, fake application. The whole mission of the fake blanket is to get attacked by attacker. Why? Because deception relies on a very basic idea that nobody should touch something fake unless he had good reason to do it. And if you think about it, you will never open a door that you're not aware the door exists. But if you open this door, you do something that against the policy. So the idea behind deception is to create illusion on the network and basically deceive the attacker to touch the wrong asset versus the real asset. So let's try to understand what we try to solve with deception. First, time to detect. And the mathematics here is very simple. If we spend more time on your network, the damage will be much bigger. If you detect it early in the kill chain, we reduce the damage. So one of the biggest problems of the industry, and we see it in the threat landscape for the last 10 years, that we try to reduce the time to detect attacker. There is many analyst reports speaking about 200 days, 100 days. End of the day, we wake up in the morning hearing about data breach. 3 weeks after the investigation, we discover that these guys spend more time on the network. If we're willing to detect attacker early, we need to deceive them early. And this is what we try to do with deception platform. And on this session, we will learn how to do it. The second time is the false positive alert. This is one of the biggest problems of the industry. And I always describe it in a mathematical way. If you have 5 analysts in your SOC, and each one of them spend 2 hours on a false alarm, meaning you pay for 5 engineers, you get 4, because they spend 10 hours on false alarm. With deception, there is no chance to spend time on false alarm. Why? Because, go back again, nobody should touch something fake. If you think about it, attacker that get inside your network, assume that you have 10 web servers, but what if you have 50 web servers? 5 FTP servers, but what if you have 60 FTP servers? The whole idea is to mimic your environment and make it 10x for the attacker. So once you get an alert, you know that is a real alert, because nobody should touch. Your legit user, contractor, customer will never touch fake asset because they're not aware there is a fake asset. And the last one, in the OT space, we are dealing with networks that become from air gap to connected. We are dealing with devices that cannot protect themselves, cannot generate their own telemetry. We're dealing with unpatched devices. And yes, everybody here knows that you're still finding Windows XP 7 and etc. inside your network. And you always have assets that I call them problem of somebody else. Why? Because you get devices from the vendors of the OT, but somebody else maintain them and operate them. So it's a problem of somebody else, but it's become your problem. So as I mentioned, deception is not honeypot. Honeypot is a module inside the platform. Deception comes from the idea of, let's take the network and split it to 4 elements, 4 silos: infrastructure, endpoint and server, data, and application. Why? Because when threat actor penetrates your network, he always engages with one of these silos. He tries to move laterally to keep engaging with more. So from deception perspective, if we want to detect the attacker early in the kill chain, we will place deception on each one of these silos. We start with the decoy. Yes, it's a honeypot, but I call it honeypot on steroid, not next gen. Why? Because it's more scalable. You get a long list of inventory of decoys. Everything that you have on IoT, OT, and IT exists in deception platform. You can also build your own decoy. It's a new technology that's coming. So if you look on the decoy today, it's not the honeypot for 30 years ago. It's different. It's more scalable, placed in the cloud, OT, IoT, and etc. The second layer is the lure, the services. If you want to expand the attack surface, maximize your chance to detect the attacker, take the services and make it 10x. If you have 5 file server, let's have 20. If you have 1 SAP system, let's have 3 SAP or ERP system. This is basically try to deceive the attacker the moment he lands on the network. The third element is the network deception. If you want to deal with sophisticated attacker, this attacker always listens to the traffic. This attacker tries to reroute the traffic, try to pass traffic through the infected machine in order to collect data. You want to attract them, send them the signal. It's like a radio station. You get into your car, you put the radio station, you're willing to hear the songs. This is exactly the purpose of network deception. Sending to the wire single, few, limited packets attacker willing to hear. And the last one, this is the last innovation from deception platform, what we call deception token, breadcrumbs. Remember, attacker always land on a real asset. Attacker never land from the internet on a fake asset. So the moment he land on the real asset, this is the moment we're willing to deceive him. So deception token took the honeypot technology to deception platform into the prime time by taking your real endpoint and server, the real one, and convert them logically to a decoy. We basically place breadcrumbs on the real endpoint and server. It's a fake keys to the vault, fake credentials, file, application. It's an agentless technology. It's not an agent. And basically, when attacker compromises your machine, start collecting and extracting data, on the surface, he will get fake data. It always be attractive. He always get the direction, go there. And if he go there, he interact with a fake asset. So how we do it? First, the deception, when you plug it into your network, we need to interact with all the network segments. The idea is to cover all your network VLAN, and basically the decoy just taking IP addresses that nobody use. Think about it. Resource that nobody use. Resource that not cost you money. Basically, you plug the software, we start gathering addresses that nobody use, and we attach it to decoys. So on every VLAN that you have X amount of real asset, you have Y amount of fake asset. Once we finish to deploy the decoys, we get the topology of a fake network. The system will start generating the keys. Why? Because each fake keys needs fake door. So the system ensures that we create the keys while the door exist. You cannot do it before. Once you deploy the deception token, you get one blanket on the endpoint and server, network deception, services, decoy, application, and data. Think about it. The attacker get in, he never knows what is the real, what is the fake. We only need one time to touch the fake. People tend to think that decoys and deception need AI technology and etc., machine learning, nothing. Why? Because you touch the decoy, you shouldn't touch, game over. It doesn't matter if it's a malicious connection, it's a legit connection from attacker like ping, for etc. For the decoy, there is 1 and 0. You touch me, alert. You don't touch me, nothing happened. So once you engage with the decoy, the platform captures the whole engagement, analyze the engagement, and generate threat intelligence. The idea behind threat intelligence, it's one, to enrich your threat analytics platform, SIEM, SOAR, threat hunting, and second, take the threat intelligence, convert it into a mitigation response. Deception platform utilize your ecosystem in order to isolate it or quarantine the attacker out of the network automatically. It's not just deceive and detect, it's not just forensics and analyze the data, we also mitigate it, meaning we're telling you that you have a problem, but we take care of the problem. So why to use deception in IoT and OT? When I mention IoT in terms of medical IoT, many healthcare adopt deception, and OT, critical infrastructure. And why people tend to use this technology? Three main reasons. There is many of them behind me, but three main. First, it's non-intrusive, zero impact on your network. Second, easy to install and not require any network topology changes. Nothing, not inline configuration, shutdown, plug the software, start using free IP address that nobody uses, system is up and running. And the third one, there is no false alarm. And false alarm for OT team that not all the time they are cyber expert or not all the time they have the time to deal with alerts, to have a tool that they know once they get an alert, Houston, we have a problem, is a great ROI for them because they know that they need to stop the day-to-day operation and dealing with the alert. And also, it's not expensive. And if you look on OT networks and you want to understand how to detect attackers with devices that you cannot protect, think about attackers that get in and try to find a PLC. On a regular network with 20 PLCs, what happens if you have 200 PLCs? From the attacker perspective, it's heaven. Everything can be penetrated, everything is vulnerable, he can have fun and control everything, but nobody tell him that the moment he touch the wrong asset, this is the moment he go out. And how we do it with deception? It sounds like complicated, maybe I'm not mature, maybe I'm not ready for deception. Yes, it was true 6-7 years ago, not today with all the virtualization automation in place. A good deception tool basically automate 85% from your deployment. First, he profiled the network. He running asset discovery. He can do it actively, scanning, in OT is a forbidden word, and also do it by passive. We know how to take the traffic and build your asset discovery. The system build your asset discovery. The system analyze your network, and the system by algorithm propose you what kind of decoy to deploy. You get a nice visual map with all your network and all the decoys and element to deploy. You can customize it, you can agree, disagree, you can manually fix the map, the deployment. Once you click the button, go grab a coffee, cup of coffee, 20, 25 minutes, system is up and running. You have the decoys, we have the token, you integrate it with your platform, you just wait for the attacker to make one mistake. You know, one of the things that's unique for deception is the ability to detect the attacker on the first mistake. If you think about attacker that move laterally, he can touch your firewall, your AV, other security, but if it's not reaching the anomaly signature or the threshold, these devices will not send an alert. With deception, it's different. He needs to touch one time to get detected. There is no place for mistakes with deception. Attacker without deception can understand what AV, what firewall, what proxy, what other system you have. With deception, it's kind of a game over. He touched the wrong door, get an alert, getting out. And deception, while adopting the OT market, and by the way, 41% of our business in deception is in the OT space, just to understand the value of the platform. Let's look on the Purdue model. And we basically build the platform to support the whole Purdue model. On the control zone, we will deploy decoy, PLC, legacy system. PLC should support all the biggest vendor in the industry plus the protocols. On the operation one, we will see SCADA, HMI, management platform, IT, because OT always have IT desktop in the OT. People need to work with the headquarters, even though they are placing on the OT site. Then we go to the enterprise. Deception support IT, not just OT. You can deploy servers, application, data, camera, switches, printers, anything that you have on the network in terms of IT, IoT, and OT, you can find with deception solution. You can also build your own. You can upload your gold image and build your own decoy that will mimic your environment exactly. Deception can be part of your domain, can be part of your tools. And the last one is the DMZ, where you can place deception in the DMZ. However, I always recommend customer to place it in the DMZ close to an asset that already get exposed, but don't expose the honeypot. People get excited for exposing honeypot to the internet, but once you do it, 90% of the alert is a white noise, because everybody scan everybody. Will not help you, but if somebody compromises a web server, and around the web server we have a lot of decoys, guess what? Once he compromises the web server and try to look inside the segment, because in the DMZ, he will work very slow and sensitive. Once he touches the decoy, it's a game over for him. He gets out. Now, let's see of the success of the technology, because take time. I'm with deception almost 12 years. I start in 2012 for Gartner. Was hard to explain them and convince them there is a technology for the enterprise. So we was the first company in the market. So I saw the market from day one. And today, when it's a bigger market, let's look on a couple of case studies. First, this is, by the way, one of them that I was personally involved as the product. It's a gas station company. And when I asked the CISO, why gas station need deception technology? He had a nice answer. He said, look, I was a CISO of a different company. On my previous company, the way to penetrate me was between 5 to 7 entries to my network. Now in the gas station business, when I have 335 gas stations, I have 335 points to attack me. And gas station in COVID-19 was a business that was open. So this business was grow because it was one of the few businesses that the government allowed them to be open. So the business was grow, more application, more data. They start collecting a lot of information. He was feel exposed. So the idea was to place deception and detect the attacker on the gas station itself. Why? Because if I detect it early in the kill chain, I just close the line for this gas station, and he may keep running there, and when I contain it or isolate it, but he will not affect the rest of my network, because for one gas station, penetrate the data center connect to 335 gas station, it's heaven for the attacker. But if you isolate it, detect it on the gas station level, this is basically what you try to achieve with deception. So we place deception on the gas station, gas tank, camera, printers, point of sales, everything that gas station have, we place with deception. And the second one, it's a US-based customer, is a water company. And the problem for the water company is a problem that we speak, but we are not aware that it exists. If you are manage a water company and you are dealing with the IT and OT, where you spend your day? Protecting the Active Directory or protecting the water systems? The team every day have the challenge what to do, and they are stretching with a lot of alerts, false alarm system to manage. So they hear about deception, and the reason they go after deception was not the decoy, OT, and etc. It was nice. They want a tool for early breach detection with 0 false positive. They don't have time to deal with everything, but they want to get a tool that when it's signaling an alert, they know stop working on the IT, go to the OT, because it's a problem. This was the reason for them to buy deception. For use case, 4 main use cases. First, OT, IoT, and IT. Second, ransomware. We do ransomware without agent, without machine learning. We are not EDR system. Why? We just let the ransomware encrypt fake files. User not encrypt fake files. Ransomware encrypt. When he encrypt the fake files that placed on a decoy that act as a file server, we detect it's a ransomware. So we detect 100% of the time ransomware. Why? because we're letting the ransomware to do his mission, to encrypt file. If he encrypt fake, we know that it's a ransomware. It cannot be a user. Lateral movement is the classical one, and of course, threat hunting. So why deception? If you want to know if there is somebody in your network, already in the network, use deception. If you have IoT, OT that cannot protect themselves, use deception. It's not an agent. It's around them and protect them and provide visibility. And the last one, reducing false positive. It's very important. False positive costs you money. Buying deception, reducing your false positive, save you money. Q&A. Thank you.
So you mentioned that, like, most likely if an attacker gains access to the environment, it'll be on a real system. So you guys have an agent on the real system, correct?
No. There is two elements for deception. There is the decoys. They are running inside the software, just taking IP address from the network. Everything running the software, but the IP is from the segment. When you scan the segment, the decoy answers like a real system. This is one level. The second level is the deception token. We take the breadcrumbs, the agentless. It's a script that we run on the real endpoint and server, and we are placing secret that the attacker, once he compromise and get exposed, he just follow it. We just inject like fake credentials, fake shortcut to application. We hide it from the user don't see it. You need hacking tools to see it. We inject it into the operating system. So once you get exposed to a fake credentials with a destination, for example, we inject user password for RDP session to a server. You run a Mimikatz tool, password dump. He extracts the user password with the IP. He accesses the server, log in, fine, it's a decoy. He keep playing with the asset, not aware that it's a fake. We keep capturing the data, alerting, and mitigate it out from the network.
So you're assuming that that the attacker is going to focus on what the breadcrumbs you leave. Like, to me, an attacker, first thing they're going to do is they're going to do some enumeration. They might try to figure out what systems, maybe they want to go after domain controllers or specific systems, but your product's not going to give them, because there's multiple products out there for deception. So your product's not going to give them misleading names for systems. It's just going to leave breadcrumbs in the hopes or the design that the attacker will find those breadcrumbs first before they find other legitimate systems.
Yeah, so when attacker making enumeration on an endpoint, he will expose real data from the user and fake data. Fake data will always be more attractive for him. He may not use it in the beginning and in a later phase, but he knows that he has credentials, access, interesting application to go after. Think about it. One of the breadcrumbs, very simple, very brilliant. We place fake network drive share that map to a decoy. But we hide the network drive from the user. When the user click my computer, he will not see the network drive, just on command line. When attacker compromise your desktop, running in the background, he go after local drive, network drive. The moment he touch the fake, you get an alert. Without doing nothing, just enumerate the desktop. We will get the first alert. This is how we detect, by the way, ransomware. So there is deception token. You just need to touch, get the alert, or you need to execute the data that he get. So two different, but all of them in a one package. It's a script running and disappear. It's not an agent.
Okay, so then your system needs credentials to be able to get into that system over the network to drop the...
It's a script that you put in the logon script. You utilize the user. It's a user space, not the admin. We're running, insert it in the user level. So once the attacker run it, he see it from the user, and we also can place in the admin. It's dependent on the permission, but the default in the user level. You don't need admin access. Okay. And you just place it in Active Directory logon script. Is the best way to do it. There is many ways, but this is the most reliable one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. How do you differentiate between the decoy and the real one? I mean, if you have an asset inventory system or a health monitoring system or something, how do you differentiate on the two?
Yeah, it's a good question. We have a mechanism in the platform that calls safe list. During the installation, you discover tools that monitor the network, monitoring tool, vulnerability scanner, and etc. You take the behavior and put it in the safe list, meaning you let the system know that if you get engagement from this IP on this service, ignore it, don't alert, and you also can block from him the answer, so he not map you in their network. So you don't want to see the decoy on the monitoring tool, and you don't want to see the decoy vulnerable on your reporting on the vulnerability scanner. So we know how to ignore it and not even be visible on their side.
That means there's a kind of a master where you know if it's a decoy or a...
No, I configure it in my side, so if the monitoring tool touch it, I am not alerting. I ignore it. And I also can block this connection and say even not fingerprint it in your system. So you don't want to have like a HPOV and see your real network with many, many other assets that your network think like, what's happened? Like we get like 500 more assets today. So it's working both directions.
Thank you.
All right. As security professionals, I think it's easy to say we get the value proposition of this, but I'm going to tell you in real life, we have to deal with operations managers who don't want us dropping anything in an environment that they don't understand. So how do you recommend those of us who are trying to educate our business leaders, especially our operations business leaders, that it's safe to put something like this in their environment and it's not going to cause
I can give you many, many recommendations, but I will choose the one that always work. Wait for the annual penetration test that you need to do every year. Ask them to put deception as a proof of concept before the penetration test, and let them see the value, how we detect the penetration tester team early in the kill chain. It's always work. We always sell deception. If the customer have an annual penetration test, several weeks before, deploy it and let it run. This is the best proof you can have.
I think we have time for one more question. So go ahead.
Oh,
So
go there.
one of the issues in OT honeypots is creating a degree of realism. So you can set up some SCADA software or a PLC or whatever and emulate it, but if it's not filled with the right kind of points and the right kind of connections, you don't get that prolonged attacker dwell time that you might need to observe them deploy their TTPs to a later stage. How do you guys take care of that?
Yes, so we have two kinds of OT decoys. There is the emulation engine, and soon we are going to come with a full operating system engine. It's two different. So on the emulation part, we basically create an asset, the look and feel. It's like a real PLC, but it's not running the actual OS. The next gen of it this year, we will allow you to upload like a Rockwell firmware and run it as a real asset. We take control of the networking that the PLC should send. We take control on the MAC address. We take control on the web UI. We teach the emulation to answer like the attacker expect. And again, I always tell people, you don't want to have your OT as a cyber range. Only things you need, the moment it touch, jump and take it out. You don't want to let attacker 20, 30, 1 hour in an OT environment to play. Because, okay, he will play. Nice, not nice. He will move on. You don't want to let him move laterally. You want him one-time touch, take out. So it shouldn't be like 100%. You need one mistake. Remember, even a ping or even layer 2 attacks, we know how to detect. We have an IPS engine in the platform. So even if you run man in the middle, responder, all these attacks that under the hood, we know how to detect it because we're looking on the network stack.
Right, thank you.
And remember, if you cannot beat them, at least deceive them. Thank you.